And with that, we are live. Hello, everybody. It's been a while since we've done an episode of Dark Podcasticum. Hope you're all very well. Joining me today, I have his word only. Say hello.
How's it going?
And we are expecting a special guest in Loken from Lokensminis. He runs a 3D printing company, which makes some excellent third-party minis. They're all original sculpts, and right now we're having some trouble getting hold of him. But he's got access to Discord, which we use to film. And as you can notice by his words, beautiful mug, and mine, we're doing it a little different this time. We've got a whole background setup. I would like to address Oscas will not be joining us anymore. I did put up a community post. That's his own decision. There's no ill will from my end that way. I wish him all the best. And please, if you have been going and joining his streams, do continue to do so. It's just not it's not something that works anymore. So yeah. With that being said, we have a lot to talk about today. First off, just because there is one part that I would like, what was originally going to be our first topic, which the title of the podcast might give away what we're going to be talking about, and our relative feelings and lore implications of such with that. But I would also quite like Loken's input on that if he's able to make it. So we will jump to the last bit, what was going to be my last one, and talk about the Artemis versus Melron video. His word, I showed you a little preview of it, and
yes,
before we started streaming, it's shaping up really nicely. It's currently at 12 minutes, and I still need to go over the Astartes equipment and their relative scaling and things like that. But that is not a video
you guys will enjoy it.
Miss. Yeah, as his word said, you guys will definitely enjoy it. I've been putting
one of his best yet.
I've been putting my heart and soul into that video. It's absolutely my most heavily edited piece of content.
It sure was.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So
more editing than I put in my videos, but mine's are simple. Mine's an information channel. So.
Yeah, and another thing is that many long-running fans of the channel, or followers, subscribers, however you want to word it, will remember when I got the 8th fastest time on Devil May Cry 5. If you've seen the channel updates recently on my thing and updated the description, his word, I don't know if you'd noticed my new schedule that I'd put up in my community tab.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, it all getting a lot more consistent uploads. Part of it is going to be the speedrun Saturday, which I'm gonna just once a week I'm going to attempt to do a speedrun on various different games. The first one being this weekend is going to be Space Marine. Now the fastest time on a glitchless run, so you've beaten Space Marine, right, his one?
Yes. I actually did a playthrough on my channel,
yeah,
which is when I finally learned how to set up my audio. My other gameplays, you could barely hear me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even put those. But
yeah, when I first discovered you, I thought I saw something along that of the lines of you doing a Space Marine run through. So that was
yes.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I brought it up. So how long roughly do you think total it took you to beat it?
Well, me, like 5 weeks. That's just how my playthrough.
Like gameplay time, like, so is it?
I would say about 10, 13 hours.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So the record for a glitchless run of Space Marine is 2 hours, 7 minutes, and 28 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My whole stick on the channel is I very much suck at video games. I don't hide it, so I would not be able to do that.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
so that's about the speed that I did Devil May Cry 5 in. I beat the entirety of Devil May Cry 5 in like 2-something hours. I think it might have been less than 2 hours. I can't remember. It was quite a while ago. But I am very, very certain. I just finished doing a playthrough on hard on Space Marine, and it took me like 5-6 hours. Now the glitchless run category, there isn't a difficulty requirement, so it means I can do it on easy, which normally people who watch my channel whenever I do streams will know that I don't play video games on easy. Not unless I'm deliberately trying to get through it as quickly as possible. I always play on the hardest difficulty, just because it adds the challenge, and I'm very much a trial by fire kind of human being. So with that,
normal.
Yeah, you're a normal type of man. Yeah,
normal.
No, I can't bring myself to do it. I know that normal is like the developers intended.
All power to you, right?
Yeah, the normal's like the developers intended, like difficulty setting to play on. It's how the game's supposed to be enjoyed. But I'm like, no, hard mode is how the game is supposed to be enjoyed. You're not supposed to enjoy video games.
Right. That's the main reason why, man. Because let me tell you, man, this controller has been through hell and back.
Oh yeah, mine is retired at the moment. I'm currently reteaching myself how to play with mouse and keyboard, because my old Razer Onza is it's finally kicked the bucket. We should say, well, it's not kick the bucket. It still works, but the A button doesn't work and the left bumper doesn't work.
Right. All right. We'll get into the topics at hand here.
Yeah.
Sorry for us. We're just having a nostalgia run here.
Yeah. So it's 15:15. But yeah. So I think that I can beat the 2 hours and 7 minutes time. I'm fairly confident, at least on easy. Hoping I can manage it. So anyone who is watching the podcast or watches the podcast after it's aired, be sure to look out for that. That will be on this Saturday. Which I'm rubbish with dates, so I couldn't tell you exactly when that is. Not off the top of my head.
Right.
But yeah, so with Loken not being here right now, I guess we ought to just head into the topics. We don't have that many today, because I was planning for us to have like a little interview slash talk show section where we can cosplay Ellen DeGeneres and Jimmy Kimmel. But yeah, let us get to the titular topic. They added they added female Custodes, or more accurately, the first Custodes was a woman, and they are now apparently commonplace throughout the Adeptus Custodes and the Emperor's Guards. What's your opinion on this? Now, I know you watch Major Kill's content.
Yes.
His word. Did you happen to see his video on it yet? I personally haven't. I just know he has watched one. Right, okay.
No, I did a little reaction video, because I do reaction video to Warhammer content as well.
Okay.
And I put my opinions on that. Like I said, I can't say whether female Custodes are, because I've only been doing this for like a year, Yeah. But I will say everywhere I've looked, it's always been men, brotherhood, stuff like that. That's all I can say.
Yes.
And what made me mad is why I had to make something, because I use the wikis, right? I'm a wiki text to speech, basically.
Yeah.
And if you don't know my shtick, I do. It's called Warhammer 40k lore and the Bible series. So I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain the Bible. But anyways.
Okay, so I've got.
I said.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, so basically what I said in there is when you go in behind people's back and start changing stuff like they did. Now, if they would have said something, they went like, hey, we're going into the wikis and we're changing this, this, and this. Okay, whatever. I'm not in control of the company, right? But when you do it behind people's backs and change like the wiki, even though, like I say, take the wikis with a grain of salt anyways, you know what I mean? But still, like a lot of people rely on this stuff. And that's where I was going with it. And I said in that, in the video, that I can't necessarily say, because you, Kyokin, have been doing this for a very long time, right? Or playing Warhammer 40k. And I've only been doing this for a year. I'm a believer in kind of stick to your lane, what you know. And like I said, all I've seen is that they've been met. But I don't know the full lore of the Custodes. I've done a Custodes video, but I haven't really like dug down deep just yet, you know.
Right. Okay.
So that's all I was saying. So
yeah, that's a fair enough point. Sorry, didn't mean to talk over you there. But just for those who might be watching that somehow haven't heard about this, that you're somehow on my channel and you've somehow not heard about this controversy, which has been so large and blown up that even Philip DeFranco was talking about Warhammer 40k. Which, let me tell you, when I was Philip DeFranco was like, oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to. I just want to finish the last thought or whatever. Is that I also said in there that I'm not like boycotting is the end game, I guess is what I said for a lot of the people, these, you know, message people will just say. And so I was just saying that anyways, I don't want to get too much into that because like I said, I've only been in this for a year. So
yeah, okay,
anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as I was saying, so the excerpt from the Custodes Codex has caused such a stir that even he's not really a mainstream outlet, but he's the biggest one on YouTube. Even people like Philip DeFranco have been talking about this, which really spun me through a loop when I was getting my daily news ingest. Like I pretty much only watch Philly D. Do you know about Philly D? Philip DeFranco?
I've heard about him, but I've never watched his
videos. Beautiful bastards. I'll be having a fantastic Wednesday now. But yeah, so here is the excerpt for those of you who don't know about it. I'm only going to read the beginning of it, just because it's like a full 2 pages. So this is the part that the main part of it. So Custodian Calades Toravalia Kesh stood upon the bridge of a Cobra-class destroyer named Vigilant Flame. The warship belonged to the mighty Battlefleet Solar. She lingered in the shadows at the back of the bridge, positioned at a spot where she could observe the actions of every crew member, be they in the instrumentation pits, at the armament shrines, or in the case of Shipmaster Lethwick, stood Ramrod straight before his command throne. Now, it's mentioned very much in passing and just a boom, which has obviously led to a lot of 40k fans getting their jimmies rustled, so to speak.
You know, there's a lot of, you know, people get hyper polarized on everything nowadays, you know. Sometimes we just kind of got to sit back, let the information come in. Like, I got mad at first, too, you know what I mean? But anyways, I'm sorry.
No, it's what we're here for,
on both sides.
To have discussions, right? So I would just like to say to everyone that is super mad about it and like, oh, there's never been any kind of mention of female Custodes. I would like to say I don't believe that you read enough of the books, or if you do, you listen to this is, while I very much encourage people to do it because it's fun, like listening to lore and stuff in the background, don't do it and then profess that you're like a lore master, because you miss details. So I want to just read this part from Echoes of Eternity, which viewers of my channel will know I've just done an excerpt on recently, so as a result I've reread the book again recently, which incidentally gave very, very useful knowledge to this whole escapade, we should call it. And that is, so from Echoes of Eternity. Figures clustered around the craft's landing legs, where the ship's great metal claws gripped the radiation-soaked dust of the wasteland. These men and women were plated in the same gold as the ship, rendered upon their bodies with painstaking artistry. My father's guardians, Sanguinius thought, and what a thought it was.
Okay.
Not only that being such as his father required guardians, but that he had a father at all. From Echoes of Eternity. Now, Echoes of Eternity came out, I think, like 3 years ago now, but maybe closer to 2. Probably, but Echoes has been out a while. Granted, I only got to it fairly recently. I want to say it was like last year. A friend of mine, Majestic Orange, he gifted me a copy of it. And yeah, it's so that in my initial read, I'll admit, even I was guilty of it. That kind of just skipped my mind. Like I was like, oh, cool, the Custodes with the Emperor, and I just didn't note the and women bit. But this whole Custodes controversy happened while I was rereading it, because I knew I wanted to do the Sanguinius video with his massive speech, which if you haven't watched that, please go ahead and watch that. I put so much passion into that performance that I got a bit emotional. There's a little short of me doing that as well, which people can laugh at it, they can say it, they can find it as funny as they want. That was kind of the intent behind it, is like...
Interesting enough, Thursday is Sanguinius, so I'm doing a...
Oh, nice. I'll be sure to link that in my community tab, and I'll put it in the description of this video too once it's uploaded. But yeah, I just thought it was very interesting that a lot of people are like kicking off on it, and so for example, Commissar Gamza, if you know who that is. Do you know Gamza?
No.
I'll link you to him. He's great. I really like Gamza's stuff. However, he's made about 5 videos. So he's done 2. I think he's live right now, actually. He was while we were getting the podcast ready. But he's just ranting and moaning and whinging about the female Custodes, and I don't think he's read Echoes of Eternity. And he's also made like 5 cut out videos from those streams, doing the highlights, which I get it. It's content grind, and we do the same thing. Like it's part of what you do. It's view farming. But I think it's a bit disingenuous to just this part specifically. Like, don't get me wrong. I do agree that there is a serious problem with wokeness interjecting into 40k, but this isn't part of it. The female custodians isn't part of the issue. And as you mentioned, yes, it has previously always been mentioned, brotherhood, things like this. The named ones have always been mentioned as men. However, for people tend to forget that because the Custodes have been part of the tabletop board game for a while. Like, back when I started playing, they were a myth, essentially. There was no model, or rather, I think there was models for them in Rogue Trader, but they were like unarmored ones. It's where the TTS meme comes from, pretty much. And I lost my train of thought, kind of. Yeah, that's what I was talking. But so before they became a playable faction in the tabletop and destabilized the meta to something chronic, so much so that it made me go, I'm gonna have to wait a bit before I start playing tournament 40k again. The people forget that the Custodes had just been chilling in the Imperial Palace for 10,000 years. Like, there could well have been female Custodes and we wouldn't have known.
And that's what I was saying too, is like, people do thrive off of hyperpolarization. Like, both sides do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All sides. And then sometimes I catch myself, like, when I read that, I was like, oh no, here we go again.
Like
but
CJ Johnson from San Andreas.
You reminded me to kind of take a step back, listen to it. Now, why I got mad is they were changing the wiki. That's what upset me. They went in and changed the wiki and changed all the stuff in the wiki, which then I was like, okay, this is what I rely on.
Yeah, so
you know what I mean?
Yeah, then it gets back to, I think it was in episode 2 we spoke about something like that, where But the thing is with 40k as a franchise has basically just been a long-running series of soft retcons anyway.
And it does happen.
Yeah,
in every series, D&D's famous for it.
It's the precedent, more so than an outlier. Yeah, like back in the day, in I want to say like 3rd edition Chaos Space Marines Codex, Horus was just a Space Marine. Like the Primarchs weren't really a thing back in the old lore. And now they're one of the most beloved parts of the franchise. And I'm not going to sit and harp and defend this to death, because quite frankly I don't care that much. However, something that people need to consider...
It's in the lore.
Yeah, if it's part of the lore, it's part of the lore. Deal with it. At the end of the day, while we love and participate in the universe, we don't write it. And if Games Workshop want to make that change, cool. If you really dislike it that much, you don't have to support it. You don't have to play Custodes. You don't have to deal with them.
But let us know, right? Let us know. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how else are they supposed to let us know other than putting it in a book? Yeah.
Yeah.
But one,
Well, I'm talking about
I would like to make.
They're gonna like if they're gonna change the wiki and stuff like that. Let us know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
That's
wiki,
what
the
kind
wiki
of
is all
got.
fan done, so that's fans being done.
That is true. That is true.
Which, when stuff like this happens, you just have to know. Cool, the wiki's about to change. Let's keep an eye on it. But yeah, the last thing I'll say on the subject of the female Custodes is that they also almost never take their helmets off. Yeah, like the Custodes are intended as like almost an exhibition of the extent that the Emperor can take gene forging to and genetic modification without the creation of a Primarch. And for me, it wouldn't make sense that he would only do it with men. Like, if he's trying to go, this is the pinnacle of humanity, this is absolute best that we could ever become, and then only use 50%
Warhammer
of the
40k
population.
universe. Yeah, the Warhammer 40k universe doesn't care about your gender for its canon fodder.
Yeah. Oh well, we could get into the whole Imperator book where there's the like gender neutral fucking, pardon my language, but like gender neutral Titan princeps that uses like made up pronouns, like literally not even like doing the whole anti-LGBT fucking thing. Gav Thorpe literally invented pronouns for it. It was like vim or something like that, and at that point you lose me. You're like, go away.
Yeah.
When you have to make things up, like I would totally buy in to Mechanicus and Skitari and Titan Princeps and stuff like that being gender neutral, because they're mostly machine anyway. Where's the gender?
Right. Right.
But
that is true.
And then lastly on the Custodes thing, like because they're so rarely seen without helmets, and because, sorry, armor nerds, boob plate is impractical and it would result you getting stabbed in the heart, because it would go chin round and just you've got a whole centered point of indentation there where it would just penetrate easier.
Somebody joined.
Oh, it's Loken. Hey, Loken's here.
Hello.
Hello,
sorry,
buddy. Hello, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Not too bad.
Excellent. Your audio level is perfect.
You mind if I? Yeah, you mind if I say something real quick? See, even with this wiki stuff, I kind of got riled up and stuff like that. But hey, it didn't even like click to me. It's like, yeah, that is fan made. And then because all I watched were like all these people posting like they changed the wiki and blah 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 blah, and then I was like, you know what I mean? See, that people do feed off of that.
Yeah.
See,
that's
all I'm saying.
For you, Loken. Which welcome onto Podcasticum. It's awesome to have you here.
No problem.
Just to provide a bit of context, we are talking about the hot controversy at the moment and our thoughts on it with the female Custodes. Is that a topic you want to interject anything on, or do you want to steer clear of it?
I don't mind talking about it. I mean, I fully expected Games Workshop to go down this route at some point. I'm surprised it took them this long, but it is, I suppose. And if this is the route they want to take, then I will let them die on that hill, I suppose.
It's unfortunate that you joined after I had finished the points that I had made as to why I'm not that fussed by it and why there's a precedent that it's okay. Basically, to summarise, Sanguinius mentions seeing a female custodians in Echoes of Eternity, which came out a couple of years ago. That's my main defence of it, but even then, that's still a kind of a soft in passing retcon. Like he literally mentions it in passing when the Emperor shows up at the Eternity Gate, and he's like, "Oh, the Emperor's guardians, men and women." Like it's so in passing that it's unreal.
Yeah.
Real quick, when was that codex made that references like the female custodian? Not the Echoes, not that, but everyone.
No, the
thing that everyone.
Custodes Codex came out like a week or two ago, Loken.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
about a week and a half or something like that. Yeah,
it's why it's like real hot topic and controversy at the moment.
How far does like the first one go back?
So the Custodes have only been in the tabletop, I want to say like 7 years?
7 years?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. They've not been around that long. Realistically,
Okay.
as a playable faction, they've been in the lore for quite some time. I'd say like 10, 15. But as a playable faction, yeah, no, they're not that long. I'd have to Google it. But they have been a menace in GPs and locals alike since then.
Right.
But yeah, so I've said pretty much all I have to say about that. Other than, if a female were to be gene forged to the point that a Custodes is in general male, whatever, all you have to do is look at female MMA fighters, just as an example. Like, so if anyone's familiar with mixed martial arts, you'll know Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, and Kayla Harrison if you follow the female side of the sport at all, which I do. And no offense intended to these women, if I say this, and in the astronomical chance that one of them sees this, I don't want you to kill me. Because they have masculine features because of the sport that they partake in. Now, if you crank that to 1,000, hell, to 1,000,000 by pumping them with every kind of growth hormone, testosterone, and stuff of that nature to make them the height and build of a Custodes, they're gonna look like a bloke. You wouldn't be able to tell them apart in terms of build.
Well, look at all the bodybuilding women out there that have masculine features
when women
and all that.
build breast muscle tissue, the fat of breasts is reduced, as you said, with bodybuilders. So it's entirely possible that it was a thing, and I don't personally see an issue with that. Where we'll start having an issue is if they start trying to bring female space marines, because it's been directly stated.
You can't survive the process.
Can't
usually
be done.
Well, they even said not long ago, GW did, about them that Space Marines are male only, and that was in like the last year or two. They said that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So therein is where we start getting problems, in my opinion. But
right, because it goes totally against the lore, right?
And
nowhere, and I guess nowhere does it say, that a female couldn't survive the Custodes process.
Yeah, but that's the other thing as well. To my memory, not like the not aspirants. What's the word I'm looking for? Candidates for Custodes. They not many of them just blew up and died because they're pieces of art rather than more brute force mass manufacture that the Astartes are.
Right.
In fact, I don't know if there is actually a written instance of a aspirant for the Custodes dying from the process. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Well, I don't think we know how a Custodes is made anyway. I don't think it's actually but I think it's all kept quite secret. I think Lewittin has got a really good video on this on the actual female Custodes topic at the moment.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And people should, if they want to know more about the lore of a lore master, then go and listen to his video, because he'll explain it all pretty well.
Lewittin's fantastic. Because I knew that his word and I wanted to discuss it on the podcast, I'd been avoiding everyone's videos on this subject like the plague, because I didn't want their opinions influencing, me gaining biases from their opinions on it. I wanted to, subconsciously, I wanted to actually voice my opinions, what I know about the thing, and just add that to the mix, such as my Echoes of Eternity thing. I don't know if anyone else has mentioned the Echoes of Eternity thing. I think if anyone will have Lewittin, will have that guy. That guy's lore knowledge is crazy.
Oh man, I could only wish to get there one day.
Yeah, honestly,
I still got 30 years.
I could probably live as long as Commander Dante, and I don't think I'd ever catch Lewittin.
Do we? When do we get to see some models though?
What, of the female Custodes? See, this is the thing, as I was saying about the fighters thing. Realistically, we already have them. just
possibly.
Yeah, there's nothing to stop you taking Helm Custodes and go, this is a chick. Because they would be crafted in such a way that they're bred for effectiveness in killing, not for aesthetic. So they would be almost unidentifiable to be a woman anyway.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say on that subject. If
Same.
anybody else wants to say anything?
No.
Good.
Guess
Just
not. Right.
we got to be careful of hyperpolarization, you know, on everything.
I fear no cancel, for I am cancellation incarnate. Right. So now that Loken has joined, I would like to discuss these questions that I have written down.
Okay, go for it.
Right. So
sorry I'm
obviously,
late, by the way.
you and I first met with when in Northern Exiles Discord server in the 3D printing subsection when I was having problem with my Miles 3, which I got working right, by the way, but because of problems, it's had to be pawned at the moment because I'm the skint. But I did manage to get some great prints, which incidentally, you mentioning female custodians, like when getting models, it's still in the process of being painted, and my camera's horrible. But we've got a female custodian right there.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, I got a few prints off, which I got like 1K of Custodes done before I was like, right, yeah, that needs to go in the pawn so that I can keep the internet on with the channel growing it is. But yeah, so thank you again for helping me getting it working. I'd like to say that publicly.
No problem.
Not trying to make this too formal, but I knew that I would forget if I didn't write it down. The curse of the tism and ADHD brain. And there's an instance of the ADHD brain. I drop a pen. So I wanted to ask on the subject of lore. What would you say, Loken, just as this is kind of a lore-focused channel-ish with the excerpts and such, what would you say is your favourite Black Library book, if you had to pick one?
Ooh. Now, I am a big Blood Angels fan, so it's either going to be one of the more recent ones over the last few years, which is probably be the can't remember the name of the book. I've got the book somewhere. What is it? The attack on Baal.
Oh, the Devastation of Baal.
Devastation of Baal. That's the one.
That one's great. We spoke about that on the first episode of the podcast.
Yeah, I really love that story arc with Commander Dainty and the way the whole Tyranids and the Blood Angel successor chapters come in. I love that story arc, and I think that's pretty well written. But I'm a big fan of a lot of people like the Horus Heresy series and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One of the this is a bit of a random book that stood out to me, and I always think about this every now and again. But it was the book called Talon or something. Is it Talon or something? It's one of the later books.
Oh yes,
in the series.
The one, Talon. Yeah, I know the one you're about.
And it's stuck on one of the stories that sticks out in my mind quite a lot is the one where there's one guardsman left and one space marine. I think he's an Imperial Fist still on the planet, and basically they're the only two survivors, and they're trying to get to an astropath and send a message to any loyalists around, so if they can come and attack the Chaos forces, and they are literally like they know they're both going to die, but they hold out until like the last second and stuff like that. And even the guardsman, he goes, because of the Death Eater virus, goes blind at the last second while still firing his las rifle and stuff like that, and stuff like just that book in particular. I don't know why, but a lot of the very short stories from that book just stick in my mind and pop into my head every now and again for no reason.
I think it's because where the Horus Heresy series as a whole is like so many big grandiose events and things, like the smaller scale things like that where it's very intimate, following small parties of people, it sticks with you because it adds to the gravity of the scenarios a lot. It shows you on a really personal level. For me, that's why I really enjoy like the Euphrates Keeler and John Grammaticus storylines in the Horus Heresy.
Those are good too. Yep.
But yeah, good to know. On the Blood Angels topic, I'm currently rereading the Blood Angels Omnibus because there's a video I intend to work on at some point.
Awesome.
Involving versus stuff, and it's where the evidence of Space Marines being able to dodge. It's that and No Fear that Space Marines are able to dodge light lasgun shots, which technically makes their reaction speeds speed of light reaction speeds, because lasguns are literally just lasers.
Yeah, that's it. It's good.
Not that they have the movement speed. The calcs that I've done has Space Marines moving at like 340 something meters a second. It's the speed of sound. Because Guardsman note in what book is it? I think it's one of the Heresy books, but one of the Imperial Army. It's done from the Imperial. It might even be Talon actually, but they note that they see the Astartes move before they hear him, which implies he's breaking the sound barrier. So, but I won't bore the podcast with talk of power scaling 40k. We've already teased my little Artemis versus Merowan video, which that's going to be great. His word. Did you have a question for Loken before I ask my next one? Not to turn it into a whole interview segment, but.
All right. So, would you, I guess, as a Space Marine, take the sarcophagi of a dreadnought, or would you ride off in the sunset? Did you hear that?
I'd have to go with a dreadnought.
Yeah, you're going dreadnought. Yeah,
I'd have to go with a dreadnought.
I'm going dreadnought all day as well.
All right,
death is duty end, brother.
Yeah, there's
right.
in one of
I couldn't
the
leave
Horus,
my brother.
there's in one of the Horus Heresy books. There's I think it's in Istvan 5.
Are you about to talk about the Giga Chad King that is Rylanor?
I think so, and it's been a long time since I've read it, and where he's basically like, what the hell's gone on here type thing, and he gets dropped onto the planet, and he's just like, and he's just fighting until his last breath, basically. Yeah, that's a good way to go out.
Yeah, there's also, I don't know if you know, one of the later books, Fulgrim goes back to Istvan, and Rylanor's still there alive, but he's like crippled, and Fulgrim goes up to him and he's like, well, we can fix you if you join us. And he basically goes, fuck you, and blows up the Dreadnought's core in his face.
Oh.
Yeah. It's,
yes,
I've been meaning to do that excerpt for a long time, but Rylanor is like almost sacred. It's like, I need to make sure I've got all the effects, all of it done perfectly.
Yeah. That needs to be done.
Yeah, I've only just recently worked up the courage to do echoes. But yeah, so I'm glad we're all in agreement that we'd choose Dreadnought. Plus, it allows you to cast Fist with more power.
Right? Yeah.
So
You want some?
what if any? What aside from money sparked your interest in 3D printing and subsequently making your own company from it?
Okay, all right then. So we'll go back from the beginning. I was out of 40k Games Workshop for quite a long time. I started. Let's go back to the beginning then. I started in 2nd edition. So yeah, this is going all the way back. I was playing quite regularly. I had I collected Blood Angels because they were part of the starter box set, which I've still got some of them, by the way.
I've got a single Rogue Trader Terminator somewhere.
No, I've still got most of my Blood Angels squad if I can find them. I'll probably drop a picture at some point
that'd be cool.
to you and stuff like that. So they from when I was like 13 or something, I painted. I've still got them. I've got painted on the shelf. I found them in my parents' loft a few years ago, and so I brought them home, and I was like, awesome. And so I stopped playing for obvious reasons, for the usual reasons that kids stop playing, for getting into other things. And this was about 4th edition. I stopped playing, and then I didn't.
When I started,
yeah. But I didn't. I kept up with the lore, so I would always like be interested in like computer games, the books and whatnot, and just keep a general interest. But as far as playing it went, no, I was out for a long time then, and then I got back into it just before the Primaris, so 8th edition, 9th edition came around. So I just started getting back into it and looking at what I wanted to do, and then just as I was doing that, they dropped the Primaris, and I was like, oh, these are cool and everything. And I was like, oh, what? Well, I want to play Space Marines, but which chapter do I go? And I thought, if I can't choose one, I'll choose them all. So I went Death Watch, and I started collecting the Death Watch, and I found a couple of YouTube channels about kit bashing items and stuff like that. And then I was like, okay, I want to make all my dudes pretty unique and colourful, because I was getting into like the Death Watch lore again properly, and how they're all like, how they do things and the way they use different armors and different things. And so I wanted to kit bash my own troops, and I wanted to make my own stuff. I wasn't very good at green stuff, so I was like scouring the internet for like 3D printed bits and God knows what. And it was getting rather expensive. And the wife actually says, well, why don't you just get your own? And she goes, how much is a 3D printer? And I was like, well, at the time they were like 250 quid, 350 quid for a small one. So she goes, well, you've spent that much on bits, why don't you do it yourself? And then it went from there. And then I got myself a 3D printer and started printing off a load of bits to make my stuff. And then one thing led to another. People were going, hey, I hear you've got a 3D printer. Can you print me some bits? And I was like, yeah, sure. And they were like, I'll give you some money for it. I'm like, who doesn't like money, etc.
Exactly.
And then before I know it, I was chatting to a guy that I still work with now on Northern Exile server. I was fairly new on the Northern Exile server, and he was actually selling, a 3D printer, selling stuff online and stuff. And we were chatting, and he was like, well, if you're already doing it on the side, why don't you just open up a
full-blown
business store? Yeah. And then one thing led to another, and two and a half years later, I'm still doing it. So happy days.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar as to why I started taking an interest in 3D printing. It was mainly just like I was like, oh, the technology is really cool, and just like kind of dismissed it as I was like, I'll never be able to understand how that thing works. And then started looking at like getting some 3D printed bits because I play Imperial Fists and Imperial Fist Successor chapters, and I don't particularly like spending, I think, what is it, £25 for 10 shoulder pads from Games Workshop. Not to be honest. As much as I love the company and they create a universe I enjoy, I was like, right, somebody's got to make some of these cheaper, because it's just a plain shoulder pad with a flat fist on it. Started looking at it, and I was like, okay, because I've then found out about all the takedowns that GW does, which obviously it sucks, but it's their right, it's their intellectual property, so obviously it's fine. I'm not going to sit and whinge about that like some people would. But yeah, I was like, okay, so to get good ones and find them, it's kind of expensive, and it only saves me a little bit of money. And I was just like, you know what? Let's just get a printer and see if I can figure it out. And then lo and behold, it wasn't actually that difficult. I obviously had the issue that we spoke about, which I then discovered was because I hadn't funneled and gotten rid of the excess like grainy bits from the failed prints. And I even got printed bits to do a converted Rogel Dawn who's sat up there. He looks like Rogel Dawn if he was in World of Warcraft, but his shoulder pads are enormous because he's made from what's the actual name? Stormcast Eternals. I was about to call them Sigmarines. And yeah, it's probably, I would 100% recommend anybody who is on the less financially stable side, shall I say, and wants absurd amounts of plastic and is willing to put into the time to figure out how it works properly. I'd 100% recommend people get printers. It's great. And if they can't do that and don't have the space or or the facilities to do it safely, this is where people like you come in.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
I got a quick question, real quick. So, what are like the essentials a new player like me like needs, I guess, first, and like where to look for a company like you, which is right here, anyways.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Okay. So, okay. So for the what do you mean by the essentials? What you would need to get your own?
His word hasn't ever actually played the tabletop.
Okay.
Nope,
fair enough.
I don't have the money.
Yeah. So
to be honest with you.
Yeah. What I would say, his word, is the first thing you need to do is especially when taking from a standpoint of like not having tons of money to chuck at plastic soldiers. Battle Scribe, which I've sent to you before, is a must. It's a way of you having access to the rules, which now, to be honest, current edition 40k Games Workshop have like their own app that you get the codex rules, like the data slates. That's what they're called for 40k. Sorry, I'm mainly a heresy player. But the data slates you get for like free or something. Whoa! Speaking of 3D printing,
or at least something to where like if you spend money on the subscription or something like that, where you have something like that.
Well, yeah. See, that's the thing. Battlescribe is entirely free.
Well, I know. I was just saying for Games Workshop.
Oh right, okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I was just saying at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm.
Well, it depends.
Telephone.
It depends what army you're into to begin with first. So if I was a beginner in any type of like wargaming type franchise, so it could be like 40k, Star Wars, Legion, etc. You want to get into it, then it would be a case of just going to the website of what they offering and etc. and what they find. But if you see the prices of some of these things and you think, wow, look at the price of those 10 miniatures, those 5 miniatures and everything, oof, an arm and a leg. But I know people do it 3D printing of various things, of proxy models or similar style models which can be used in a multiple of war games, not just like the one that we're talking about, etc. Or they've created their own games, because there's a lot of 3D sculptors now that have got their own games, their own universes, their own everything, and they're creating this entire game set that most people haven't even heard of. I don't like to shill, but it's a bit of a shill. Like one of the sculptors that I do sell for, which is a company called Soul White Studios, she designs all of her models, and she's got her own game set behind it with her own community and rules and PDFs and God knows what, and data slates and data sheets and God knows what, and the whole lore on everything going back years. And she's made a living through making her own game and stuff like that. But
real quick, is that kind of like how D&D does their stuff? Somewhat, where they lease it out to other companies can take their or whatever, and make their own version of it, I guess.
Pretty much, they've D&D have got an open source platform. Yeah. Which anybody can take material or use their like blueprint basically, and then create a version of a game and stuff like that. And then so it could be like me, for example, I could create some sort of some game system that uses their blueprint, and then I could create the miniatures myself, like design the miniatures or get a sculptor to design the miniatures, and then sell them along with all the rules and everything. And then you've got the little miniatures that are on the table and stuff like that, etc. The best places to go at the moment for any type of like for miniatures, the big ones are like eBay, Etsy. There's a couple of other standalone websites, etc., that which do it and stuff like that. But your big two are at the moment is Amazon and Etsy. There are places like Only Games, which but they're doing great reference, right?
Yeah.
They're doing.
I got it. I was second there. I was like, what?
I think that's the point. And then
Yeah,
it's that
Only
easy
Games.
to get.
yeah. But I mean, they are mostly through. They're not. They basically make their own 3D. It's a big website with lots of sculptors, and they've got their own teams and 3D printers and people who clean up the models and send them out, etc. So, but there's a lot of independent people that do it as well. So, and some people offer random printing services. So if you've got there are websites out there as well which host files, these like 3D printed files
Just quickly, we shall not mention his word if you're aware of any of them, because eyes are watching even on small things. But carry on.
I'm not going to say anything. And so you'll have like people that will they'll you can get 3D printed files from any type of anything that you can think of. There's a 3D file of.
It's kind of like Rule 34.
Yeah. And basically you can. So if you haven't got a 3D printer yourself, and you want, or if you have a 3D printer and there's something wrong with your printer, or you want something that's a bit more done professionally. I'm not saying I'm a professional, I think, but if you want something done more professionally, then what you would do is you could take those files and have them printed. As long as you've got the files and give them to the said printer, then it's generally acceptable that they can print it for you. Some people do it, some people don't. Depends on how busy they are, etc.
And for anyone watching that is interested in, as his word said, getting such things like this, down in the description there is a link to Loken's Miniatures website. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff on there. At some point when I'm in a better spot, I think they're listed as like the Deep or something like that. The
Dredge Marines
that are all like old school divers.
Yes. Right. I am currently Mezgeik. No, there's a sculptor called Mezgeik, and he does some like green skin orc-esque models and the Dredge Marines. And I'm currently that's it. It's Dredge Marines. I'm his only fully licensed seller at the moment.
Yeah, those are absolutely beautiful. The orcs as well are crazy beautiful. Which that actually segues quite nicely into my last question for you, Loken. Do you have a particular miniature in your line that stands out to you?
There's a few. There's actually a few. I'll have to go to my website quick. It depends on the sculptor, but if I open a new tab from Mezgeik himself, it's got to be he's probably his very first one. Now he's got loads of great miniatures, but for me it was one of his first because I actually painted it myself, nice. It's when I had some time on my hands. But it's his first one. If I can find what it's called, just a second.
So, it's obviously not trying to get you to pick favourites with the people that you print the sculpts for. Obviously, you wouldn't print them and you wouldn't distribute them if you didn't like the sculpts and you weren't all for them. But it'd be nice to know if there's any that particularly stand out to you that are like, oh yeah.
Well, for the Mezgeik range, I love Mezgob, the Scrap Boss. He's one of his first miniatures he ever did, and I still think it's one of his best. And I've told him that himself. And there's you've got some like they're called the Good Boys, so they're like small dogs basically, but they're like a play on Squigs, and they're quite cute actually. They're not too bad.
Orcs with West Highland Terriers, yeah.
Yeah. But it depends on the sculptor, because each sculptor's got some fantastic designs and whatnot, and obviously they're bringing out new sculpts every single month, so it's trying to keep up with what they're releasing to get them out and make everyone happy, etc. But it is what it is with that.
Yeah, of course. Wow, yeah, that's I think that was that was everything I wanted to ask you. His word. Did you have anything else that you wanted to ask specifically?
Do you prefer to make a model of the BDSM Jukari or just a regular Eldari female? I worded it a lot differently. I just changed it up.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
So, I get you. I prefer doing standard models myself, but I have printed some interesting things for different people.
And I guess that will be and we'll leave it at that kind of topic.
There is
yeah,
some people.
you don't have to.
I have no issue. Look, if people want, if it makes people happy, then I'm willing to print it for them within reason, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I have seen some questionable things that people have printed in like the printers, like printer subreddits and things like that. But yeah,
oh yeah,
it is
they're
what
there.
it is. If people are going to be happy, people are going to be happy. It's live and let live,
Yeah.
as we like to say. As yeah. That was really cool to hear. Did you want to stick around for the rest of the pod, or did you want to shoot after?
No, I can stick around, no problem.
Right, excellent. So from there, let's move on to you as a salamander stan. His word wanted to hear about a bit about tHeY.
Yes.
And chapter masters in general, which, seeing as we've got Loken here, you'll be able to tell him a bit about Dante once we've segued on to just chapter masters in general.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah. Or at least just a vague thing. Is I'm
Well, I know chapter masters. Just I didn't realize this guy was like the
tHeY's
in the 40. Now.
He's
Yeah,
mostly known for like the Armageddon books. He was like one of the higher ups in command during in both the second and the third war for Armageddon. I think maybe the first as well, when it was Chaos. But yeah, essentially the majority of what people know him for on that campaign is. Are you aware of the Marines Malevolent? His word.
No, I can't say.
Okay, they're raging psychopath knobheads of Astartes that are far too pragmatic for their own good. And during Armageddon, they essentially shelled the ever-living hell out of a human refugee camp because it was overrun with orcs. And they killed like thousands of people. I want to say it was like 5,000, 4,000.
Yeah.
Just so that there was more orcs than there were people. But obviously, you knowing even the little bits that you do know about salamanders do not take kindly to the deaths of civilians when they're unnecessary, let alone the killing of an entire refugee camp.
which is why I was attracted, to be honest with you.
And tHeY literally just...
My first introduction was to the Iron Hands, and we all know how they are.
I've got Ferrus Malus up on the shelf. I've got a little Pride of the Legion force for Iron Hands for Horus Heresy.
Nice.
And so yeah, it's
Still
cool.
so barren.
Stuff like that. But yeah, tHeY just went up to the Marines Malevolent captain and just sat there and berated him for a whole period of time, just directly in front of his whole company. And we just sat there telling him how useless and how stupid and how ashamed he should have been of himself in front of the entire company of Marines Malevolent, which is based as all hell.
Yeah. I love the salamanders, man.
Yeah, and
tHeY,
interestingly enough, is directly having stated in the old Guard Codex. I think he was mentioned by name in the Guard Codex that Commissar Yarrick's section. I've got 2 copies of it up there. But Commissar Yarrick had a deep respect for tHeY because of his care for the baseline human, whereas quite often Astartes don't give a shit.
Right.
And so Yarrick really respected tHeY, which obviously normally
I would.
normally Imperial Guard / Astra Militarum commanders and the baselines always have a respect for the Astartes because of the Imperial creed rather than the Imperial truth. and their belief that they're the angels of the Emperor. But Yarick, it was. It grinds my gears to no end to say Yarick was. But that's another subject for another day. Yarick was a notably difficult man to impress.
Right.
To putting that lightly, ain't that right, Loken?
Yeah, he's
bad mamma jamma.
he's got a good he's got a reputation, put it that way.
Yeah, certainly. Old Baali. And and Yarick was like, you know what, you're all right, Chief, pretty much.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got the whole fact that Tushan with the Fire Drakes, he held a bridge leading into, I want to say it was Hades Hive. I could be wrong on that. It's been a long time since I've read any of the non-chaos related Armageddon stuff.
Right. By the way, my favorite Black Library book is Vulcan, Lord of the Drakes. I love that book.
I can't say I've read that, you know.
Yeah.
I have very vague understandings of the Salamander lore that connects from my understanding of other lore. It's something I actually love about the 40k universe, is that a lot of it all intertwines. And so you'll learn things about other factions by proxy. But yeah, so
right.
there was a bridge leading into one of the hives, and there was an orc column, or like armored column attacking it, and Tushan and the Fire Drake just stood on it and were like, "Yep, we're not moving," and they fought there for a week, non-stop. and they stopped an entire orc armored column, which is fantastic. I'd say of all of the chapter masters of the Astartes, barring Dante, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, Loken. Dante, probably Calgar, as much as it pains me to say it, but there's crazy things that Calgar's done. And that's probably it. He's probably the single most badass Astartes in the mainline Adeptus Astartes, so excluding the Death Watch and the Grey Knights. But he's top three in the Imperium outside of Guilliman and things like that, for sure.
Has to be.
Right. I'm so excited, man. I just got the supplement codex. It's not necessarily mine, but it's from somebody else, whatever. I'll get my own sooner or later, but
yeah.
So I'm excited to read.
The old Salamander's Codex supplement's expensive. I know that because I sold mine recently.
Oh man.
That was a pleasant surprise when I looked that up, and I was like, oh, that's
oh my
nice.
Goodness. But yeah, I sent you the Vulcan Lord of Drakes in the Discord.
Right. Well, I can't come off of the. Right, you mean you sent the book, right? Yeah, I'll have a read of that at some point for sure. But yeah, so that's Tushan. Sorry, just picking my nose on stream. Better out than in, as Shrek used to say, right?
It's natural.
Yeah, so that's you had something you wanted to talk about, his word, involving the Thunderhawk gunships and the biblical.
Oh yeah, so if you don't know Loken, my stick is I do Warhammer 40k lore and the Bible is what it's called. So it's not there to like convert people or anything like that. Just some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So
it is just before you start on the explanation of it. It is it was incidentally how I found him. He just popped up in my recommendation, and I was like, huh, that's different. That's different. Watched it, and the content's pretty great, and it's interesting to see the parallels. And it isn't really something you'd think about very often.
Well, and I mean that's what Warhammer 40k is like, a lot based off of, like religious stuff and all that, But anyways, I'll go ahead and get into this. But so we got the Thunderhawk gunship. He's used by the Adeptus Astartes as their primary means of deploying forces for ground combat, as well as their primary source of air support. The Thunderhawk gunship is considered the linchpin of any Space Marine chapter, and is able to fulfill many combat roles. So it's interesting here. We got 2 Kings 6:17. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened his eyes, and the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. when I see like Warhammer, I would say it's got me rethinking a lot of stuff. Is these ships in like stealth mode, stuff like that. And anyways, and then we got this.
The other thing as well,
Anyway.
just before you carry on, is in a couple of the heresy books, something when you mentioned this to me and as like something we want to talk about, it instantly made me think back to it. They refer to the Thunderhawks as like carriages of fire because they're gunships, which it's quite cool that you've drawn this parallel.
Yeah, you actually got into what I was going to bring up next. So.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, cool. Go ahead.
So I'll end that one there. Or, yeah, we'll just go ahead and move on from there. So what did you want to talk about with, or you know what, I will bring this up because this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, and they went up in the breadth, so this is Revelation 29, and they went up in the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints and the beloved city, and the fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Is this some kind of orbital blast? You know what I mean? Anyways, but that's the kind of stuff I get into. I try to stay away because I got other videos for that, but anyways.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. That's pretty cool. I look forward to more of your stuff relating to that. It's always great, always a good watch.
Thank you for the Tucson stuff, man. Because I've been wondering, like, I haven't really been able to get to it because of my other stuff that I do.
Of course. So the Armageddon book series, Tucson shows up a lot in that. Definitely read the Armageddon books, even from outside of a just Salamander stand perspective. The Armageddon, like anything to do with Armageddon is fantastic.
Right.
And of course,
because and Talon. So Talon, that I thought that was like in the what is that? Segmentum. Ultima Signet. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, my brain went blank there. And actual world, is it, or a hive world or something, or is that a book?
It used to be a hard world.
Yeah. There you go. Loken beat me to it. I was stammering over words saying, "Well, it used to be a thing."
Oh.
Yeah. No. As in.
I'm guessing something happened to it.
It got crumped.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Without spoiling a book series that I've just recommended to you, it got crumped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I just had that. I just forgot to ask that earlier. So my bad.
No, that's all good.
Out of all the Horus Heresy books, I've got to say the ones where the Imperial Guard or humans are featured. Personally, I connected with them more than the ones with the Space Marines, etc. Even from that Lunar Wolf character, I can't remember his name. In the first 3 books, then one of the main characters, which GW did dirty to him at the very end of the Horus Heresy.
I've not read End in the Death Volume 3 yet. I'm right at the end of Volume 2, which obviously I
don't know what I'm on about. I'm not going to say anything.
But yeah, I'm literally while I'm playing Total War Warhammer 3, I'm listening to the final bits of the End of the Death. So it's
right then. Right when you've I want to know what your reaction is when you've finished the whole thing.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think.
I absolutely will. How's Rogue Trader been as well, or have you finished with that? Because that's what you were grinding last time we spoke.
Playing Rogue Trader. Yeah, I completed the playthrough of that. That was pretty good. If I had the time, I don't get a lot of time to play a lot of computer games these days and stuff because of. Yeah, I've got my full-time job on top of the 3D printing, so it just doesn't stop.
Right.
So I would love to play it again, and I'll do things slightly different because you can go through you can choose which path you want. They say you've got 3 choices, but really you've only got 2 choices. It's either you go full corrupted or you play the path
Puritan,
that they want you to choose. Yeah, I would. Next time I'd play, I'd definitely go full chaos just to see what that's like.
Yeah. So
Just for
worth picking up, you'd say? Because I've been looking at it for a while.
Yes.
I've got a better laptop.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Definitely get that game. If you're into lore, which you are,
Yep.
if there's a lot of Easter eggs, there's a lot of small things that are implemented into the game that people that have got a massive appreciation of the lore, they're going to be able to really appreciate the game more because of the amount of love that's in the game, etc. So honestly,
They did a great job at that.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't beaten it. I've only got like 5 hours into it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I haven't been able to play. I got a whole backlog of games that I gotta play. I haven't really.
Yeah, the getting of a new laptop for me has absolutely been like, cool, I can now start actually working into my backlog. So I'm finally playing Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, which obviously, as both of us watch Northern Exile,
okay.
we are well aware of that game. Or at least I sparingly pay attention to it while I listen to him ramble. It's and read people's problems as well, like North's content.
That's a good game as well.
Yeah, I'm playing it on Legendary with Grandmaster mode turned on, and crikey is it hard. But it's so much fun. It's very, very, very similar to XCOM, which I'm not taking away from it. I've got like near 200 hours in XCOM 2, I think it is, maybe 100. It's between 100 and 200 hours, but that's on PC. I also own it on Switch, and it's like one of the only games I play on it. So yeah, obviously being an XCOM stan, I'm going to enjoy and have been enjoying Chaos Gate a lot. It's making me want to go back and do like a retro playthrough of the original, because I'm aware that there was a Chaos Gate game that came out like when I was born, basically. Well, probably not that early, but I want to say it was in the 90s, the original Chaos Gate. And yeah.
Was that an actual like computer game, or was it like a tabletop?
I'm pretty sure it was a PC game, but it was like so under the radar because realistically it's a relatively recent thing, the super serialization and popularity of Games Workshop. Like it's been for many years a pretty niche thing. Although popular among people that are part of a niche communities of board games, it was the predominant one in that, but not many people, even still, general populations wouldn't have known about it. Would you agree with that, Loken?
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, mine's pretty boring. I played Dark Tide, was like starved for sci-fi to get into, and then Warhammer was.
A lot of people played Dawn of War 1 or Space Marine on the PlayStation when that first came out, etc. Yeah, but other than that, there's a lot of people haven't. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah,
played many.
Exactly. It's
Dawn of War 1 is a great game. I love it.
Yeah. My first exposures to the Games Workshop IP and the 40k Games Workshop and the 40k IP as a result were Dawn of War 1 and Fire Warrior.
Okay.
I used to watch Star Trek all the time as a kid, and it used to be on the channel that Star Trek was on, which I can't even remember what channel it was. I want to say it was like UK TV Gold or something that Star Trek was on. But Fire Warrior was the advert before Star Trek would restart. And I was like, I really want to play that game. That looks really cool. And only after I played through it, because I'd played Dawn of War 1 first, did I even realise they were connected. Because you fight Space Marines, Space Marines at the end of towards the end of Fire Warrior, didn't you? And I was like, oh, this is a Dawn of War game. Because I was like 10. No, it would have been. I would have been older than 10, younger than 10. Sorry, I think. Because
don't be casual.
I would have said I was about 9 because I started in the hobby when I was like 9-10 years old, because I played Dawn of War and was like, I want these. I've seen these somewhere in my city. I want them, and I went and found the shop and promptly got what Battle from a Crag was the starter set when I started. So 4th edition.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't think. Because I was like semi-popular. I can't say that I was like full-on popular. Well, I was popular until I left, and then I came back, and then I wasn't popular anymore. But anyways, that's a whole other story.
Right.
And so I kind of with the sports crew, and so I never really got into tabletop. I was still kind of a nerd or whatever, but I'm kind of wishing I would have stayed away from that because it led to other roads.
Yeah.
I'll just say.
Which we
And-
won't talk about on the podcast.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So the last thing I was going to move us to was going to be comments from the community, but it seems all the subscribers are not here, and we've had no comments, so that part is kind of null and void. So I guess we'll just go for closing now, because I also need to get to sleep relatively soon. I've got an early morning. I've got an early start tomorrow. But thank you very, very much for joining us, Loken. I highly appreciate it. Was there anything you wanted to say before we all log off?
If anyone is interested in the Dredge Marines or other sculptors that other miniatures that I sell, you can find me in the description at lokensminiatures.com, or just type into Google Loken's Miniatures and I'll pop up straight away. Yeah, but thank you for having me. It's been good fun.
Absolutely no problem. It's been a pleasure to have you.
No problem.
And yeah. So, thank you all for watching.
Hopefully it doesn't bother you having a noob lit. I bring the noob perspective.
Yeah.
That's all good. It's all good. We've all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Just quickly as well before we sign off, what do you think of the new layout? Because I know you watched like one of the previous podcast things before. What do you think of this version, or have you seen how it looks now?
Well, I'm watching it at the moment. I would say that no, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I have, yeah. I mean, the last one that I watched was pretty good as well. So, but
yeah,
no, I think this one's fun.
That one I actually did on my phone.
Oh wow, okay,
yeah,
fair enough,
so
gotcha.
That was a pain in the butt. I personally much prefer this doing it with OBS because it allows us to have the video and stuff.
Fair enough.
But yeah, right.
Yeah,
so,
looks pretty good.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Loken, for joining. We have been 6 Plus Kayakan. Here's word only. And Lokensminis.
Thank you guys. We love you.
Very much.
And please go check him out, please. Please check out.
In the outro, there's a very clustered outro, but it's all good. That's how things going for now on, I guess. Have a good night.